Most salespeople aren't failing because of bad technique. They're failing because they're losers, and they chose to be a loser. Today's guest has spent 20 years saying what the sales industry refuses to hear. Welcome, Benjamin Dennehy, the most hated sales trainer in the world.
Wow, I appreciate that intro. I wouldn't say the world. I claim to be the UK's most hated sales trainer, but if the world wants to hate me, then you're probably doing a good thing.
Let's get you hated in more countries. That's the job
Yeah,
of
let's
today,
do it.
right?
I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
You trained as a barrister. At what point did you realize that law and sales are similar and that most salespeople are doing neither of them?
I realized law wasn't for me pretty soon after I qualified, actually. I didn't have the right personality. I have a huge rebellious child, so I'm not really rules focused, which is ironic. I wish they did personality testing at university before you studied so it could help you. But I realized I'll be 10 years into my career that there was a real synergy between law and sales. Both were up against one thing: everybody's lying. Everybody in the legal system is lying, and everybody in the sales process is lying. And I started to realize that my role as a salesperson was to be more of an advocate for the product or service I was selling, as opposed to a passionate loser trying to get people to like him. My job isn't to get people to like me, it's get them to the believe and trust that I can help them. So I sort of made that crossover. Yeah, that's how it began.
This is powerful. So everybody's lying. Let's go there. Salespeople are lying. Law
Yeah.
people are lying.
Prospects are lying. Everybody lie. You are allowed to lie in the sales process. Everybody. You ask anyone, do you lie to salespeople? And everyone sort of sheepishly looks at you and goes, yeah. And so where did you learn to lie? Because you weren't born with that. You've learned. This is learned behavior. You weren't born. So what you watched your mum and dad. And growing up, you watched them act and behave in a certain way. So I use the example, you're in the high street, you're back in whatever generation it was, you go into an electronics store and you're looking at the DVD or the video machine or the whatever it is, and your dad's asking the salesman all these questions. Does it do this? Does it do that? Can it record? Can I do this? Can I do that? It's all going well. The salesman's answering and your dad says, it's great. The salesman says, well, shall I wrap it for you, sir? Dad said, look, I got to discuss it with my wife, but we'll be back. And you walked out the shop and you looked at your dad and said, Dad, we got to get it. He said, nah, too expensive. I said, yeah, but you told him that we're going to talk with him. Oh, you just say that to get rid of a salesman. We learned from our parents that it's okay to lie throughout the sales process. And we do it. So what's your budget? I've got about 80 quid. Even though you can go up to 120. We do it when we buy anything. What's your budget? I don't want to tell them my full budget, because if I tell them what my full budget is, they'll try to. So everybody is giving half truths or outright lie. When do you need this? If you say, well, if I tell them I need it tomorrow, they'll know it's urgent. Therefore, the price goes, as soon as possible, but there's no rush. Yeah. So we all learn to not tell the truth. And if you're a salesperson, you need to figure out what is being told is true and what is not true. And that's a real skill, actually, getting to the truth. And that's what a whole trial's about, trying to find the truth. Both sides have a view.
I love this. You teach emotional detachment, but what you're really describing is a person who genuinely doesn't need the deal, right? Don't be needy because they will smell it and then it's over. Then the lie is compound, right? So how do you build that in someone who actually does need to pay on Friday, right?
Well, that's the definitions between a professional and an amateur. So a professional knows what they have to do. A professional knows that if I act and conduct myself in a certain way, and if I do everything that I know to the best of my ability, competently and without negligence, whatever happens at the end, even if I don't like it, is probably the right outcome. Whereas an amateur is, I've got to get to the outcome no matter what, and I'll do whatever I can to get there. So they wing it, they make it up. So, I'm a surgeon. I know there are 69 particular movements or sutures or procedures in this operation. I know if I do all 69 steps perfectly competently and without negligence, the patient should live. But say the patient dies. They then do an autopsy, and what they discover is there was some post operation infection, nothing to do with the surgeon. It's just life. Sometimes people get post-operative infections and they die. It's got nothing to do with the surgeon's skill or ability. He did the job well. I don't like that outcome as a surgeon. I don't want any of my patients to die, but I'm not responsible, so I'm not emotionally attached. It's I don't break down in tears. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did it. No, it's like, you know what? Sometimes it happens. You win, you lose. And so emotional detachment enables you to do your job dispassionately, but thoroughly.
And it's true. I'm in the rowing team, and we train the exact race pace, and we go to the mechanics of each single movement, and that's
There
the
you go.
training. So there is no surprise at
Training.
race day. You just do the
Yeah.
exact program.
You do the mechanism. Will we win? Will we lose? We don't know. What we do know is if we do this mechanism absolutely brilliantly, there's a good chance we will probably win. But if we lose, the other team did it better, or they had a slight advantage because they had a slightly different shaped boat. Stuff outside of your control.
And in
But
rowing,
you did.
you can
Yeah,
measure
you
it
did your
because
best.
yes, in rowing you can measure it because you measure it in watts and in strikes per minute. Now, what do we do in sales? What do we measure? Number of calls, number of stage transition from interested
Meeting
to engaged,
proposals.
meetings.
Yeah. Well, we tend to measure the wrong thing. So what we focus on is metrics that look good on paper and in statistics. We made 300 calls this month. We set up 50 appointments. Of those 50 appointments, we had 20 meetings. Of those, we did 10 proposals. Each proposal has an average order value of 300,000. We're on target to do 3 million this month. Sounds great, but it's all bullshit. It's like because you're measuring, well, 300 dials, 300 calls. What? So you only got 50 meetings. So what happened on 250 of the other calls? So this is what I do. I break things down and I look at each individual call. What is it that you said or did on that call, or why did you or did you not get a meeting? And why you got a meeting is just as important as why didn't you? Why did you get a meeting? Well, I browbeated the guy into meeting. So it's kind of a pointless meeting. The odds are this will go into the no-show category. Or if you get in front of them, it'll go nowhere. So we got to measure behavior. Measure what do you do to get there. That's what important. Just like you said, you measure, you got those, the metrics and whatever. So we measure. What I measure is I don't care how many dials you make. I'm only interested in the number of conversations you have. And then I'm interested in what you did on each of those conversations. How did you introduce it? How did you pitch it? How did you deal with the questions? Because if you're constantly getting stumped by the same question or statement or objection, you're not learning. You're just doing a numbers game now. If I keep doing more and more and more and more of the same, I'll effectively get there. That looks good for numbers, but it's terrible for performance. And so I'm interested in performance, not outcomes. Outcomes will come if you get the performance right.
Let's go to prospecting. What was your
Yes.
prospecting of this week?
What was my, say that again? Sorry, you lost me there.
What's a day in prospecting or this week in prospecting for yourself, for example?
What does it look like to me? So I only speak with business owners, MDs, or CEOs. And I try to set aside about only 60 minutes a day. And my goal is to have 5 conversations every day at managing director level or CEO level. If I do that, I have 25 conversations a week. I know if I have 25 conversations, I'm sure to get around 5 qualified appointments, which is 20 a month. Now, that's way more than I can sell to. So I want to get in front of more people that I can sell to, because if I'm in front of more people than I can sell to, I can actually do what I do and do it well. I'm not worried I've got to get a deal, I've got to get a sell. So when you ask me, how do people emotionally detach themselves? It always comes back to prospecting. If you're meeting more people than you can possibly sell to, then it puts you in the position to do your job well. You don't have to win every opportunity. You don't have to do whatever it takes to get it over the line. You can actually learn to professionalize. So my goal is to get in front of more people a month than I need to sell to, which means I only want to take on maybe 5 clients a month, which means I've got 15 meetings I can completely screw up on, which means I can practice new things, I can try out new techniques, I can figure out what works. That is what I mean by being professional. So my whole life is engineered to be in a position where I'm always in control. And you're only in control if you have more meetings than you can sell to. If I need 4 deals and I've only got 4 meetings, I'm going to behave very differently from somebody that needs 4 meetings but has 15 opportunities that month.
This is
It's that
how
simple.
you never get in a position where you actually need it. That's the
This is where you get
answer.
in a position where
Boom.
you don't need it. Yes. What most salespeople do, and this is true, 95% of people in sales don't actually want to be there. It's a fact. You ask anyone in sales, how did you become a salesman? They'll all
I
probably,
had
not
to.
all, yeah, I fell into it. I needed a job. Yeah. Yeah, no one chose this. No one was born wanting to do this. No one, when they were at school, when the teacher said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Oh, miss, I want to be a salesman.
Nobody.
No one does
Nobody.
that. You fall into it. So because 95% of people in sales don't want to be there, most of them don't want to get good at it. It's like being on the golf circuit, but saying, "I don't really want to be a golfer." Well, this is all you've got in life, so you might as well play. Oh, well, I'll do enough to get a 6 par. As soon as I get to 6 par,
I'm out.
I don't care. And so salespeople are like that. They do just enough to get through their life, just enough to be relevant, just enough to hit target.
Mm-mm.
It's not professional. It's sad. It's
Yes.
sad. And most of them, after 18 months, maybe 3 years, you look at a modern CV, every 18 months to 3 years, they get a new job. And they put it down, they're looking for new opportunities or new challenges. What they really meant is my boss figured out I was doing jack shit and I was going to get fired. So therefore, I had to look for a new job. That's what it means.
Yes. And many listening are business owners. They also say, I don't want to be in sales, but I have to sell. I love my product. I love my service. I love
Yeah.
changing lives. I
Yeah.
actually don't like to do prospecting, but yeah, I get it. I have to do it. Is there a fun way of doing it? You are having fun.
Yeah. Well, prospecting isn't hard if you know what you're doing. And I often teach it's like the universe. The universe is finite. There's only so much a prospect can ever say to you on a telephone call. And if after 3 months you haven't heard everything, then you're not doing your job well. Within 3 months, you should have heard every possible question, objection, or statement that someone could make to you. So then you prepare for it, you get ready for it. So because I know what I'm doing, when a prospect says, "Look, I don't have time for this," I know how to respond to that with a question. If someone says, "Well, how'd you get my number?" I know how to respond to that with a question because I've already planned it out. There's nothing they can do that surprises me, which makes it a lot more fun because I know the script before they even use it. So therefore, I'm at an advantage. And I know most business owners. Most business owners are entrepreneurs. These are people that had a great idea, a great product, or a great solution to something. And what they did is they knew they'd have to sell it because you've got to sell it. And they did what most it's almost like they're out in the dating scene trying to attract a mate. You're very good at selling yourself when it's just you and all you've got is you. But then you sell it into a few times and you start to build up a business and you get distracted. You need to hire salespeople. Now, deep down, you're not a salesman. So you don't know what makes a good salesman. All you think is, well, if I can get someone like me, full of energy, full of passion, full of vigor, keen like me, they'll be successful. But they won't. The problem is this is not their baby. This is someone else's kid. And I don't love it as much as you. I can't do that. So you end up hiring people that on paper look good. They interview like Tom Cruise. But when you put them on payroll, they turn into Mr. Bean. They become absolutely useless. Yeah. And the person that said, "I don't mind prospecting," spends his whole life sending emails. You say, "Pick up the phone." "Oh, no, I prefer to warm them up with an email before I phone them. I find people don't like." And it's like, yeah, but when I hired you, I said this would be a phone-based job. Yeah, look, I've been doing this for years. I know how it works. And they are reluctant. Or when they finally do pick up the phone, they procrastinate and they dither. I've just got to research the company. I need to find a hook to go in on. And they give all these reasons to avoid doing their job. And then when they do get in front of somebody, all they do is spend half an hour talking at the prospect about how great they are, doing some dog and pony show, showing up, throwing up, and hoping, as I call it. Then they come back to the office. You say, how was it? Oh, it was good. They really liked us. They're very interested. They asked all the right questions. What's the next step? Just got to do a quick proposal, a quote. Then what? Well, we wait. But I've got a good feeling about this one, Gov.
What about calling? I hear from people that just calling stranger on the phone doesn't work anymore. That it just doesn't work with all these AI calls. They prefer to send private messages now via socials mainly and emails. What's your experience?
The complete opposite. People that say cold calling doesn't work are losers because they don't know how to do it. That's it. These are people that say, I'm so socially retarded, I can't talk to another human being, so I'd rather send them a message. There's no skill in sending a message. You see, communication is two people in real time, in real life, interacting. That's a skill. Sitting behind your little keyboard and then writing a sentence, go, oh, no, I don't want to word it like that. Backtrack, click, 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 then writing it again. No. You can't do that in the real world. That's not a skill. So these people that say it doesn't work because they can't do it.
It's hard.
It's just like the fat people that say the diet doesn't work. No, fatty. The diet doesn't work because you don't do it. That's as simple as it.
Somebody trying to call me, the first thing is I don't know the number, I don't pick up. So that's the first
Fair
problem.
enough.
So let's choose not to be losers. We choose to be winners. Let's solve one problem after the others, right? So the first problem, how do we get them to pick up the phone? And then let's go to the next problem.
Okay, so the first problem is you can't. That is outside of my control. I can't make someone pick up their phone. If I could, this would be a hell of a lot easier. So people say, well, I phoned and no one answers. I get that. That's part and part of the job. Just like, the 100 emails you sent, how many people actually opened it? Well, 10. Well, I don't hear you complaining about the 90 that didn't open. How do I get the other 90 to open my email? No, so some things are outside of your control. So I can't make someone pick up their phone. So I can't fix that. But there is technology that fixes that. They're called dialers. Dialers are calling multiple people at the same time, which means someone will answer your phone call within the space of 30 seconds. So using the no one answers just means I'm not using the relevant technology that fixes that problem. So
are dialers still working? I thought the numbers are going down hard.
I can't speak scientifically. I mean, you're going to get the people on one side saying it doesn't work. I work with companies that have built themselves up by their shoestraps from zero to billions, all from cold calling, most of it. Yeah? There'll always be a reason. At the end of the day, I don't think, well, probably not for at least the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to eliminate human-to-human contact. The phone still works. People answer their phone. Dialers still work. Again, people are looking for a reason not to cold call. They're not looking for a reason to cold call.
That's true. So don't give up, guys. Find a creative way to still call people. Yep. And what about social media? Let's say we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we want to start a conversation. What's a good way to start a conversation from cold?
Okay, so again, the last thing you want to do is, well, I think I would not use what they call in messages, particularly on LinkedIn in messages, because I'm like that. You see a LinkedIn in mail message, instantly you know it's spam.
Of course.
Yeah. So nobody looks at those. So what you want to do is, I have a particular way of dealing with things. I only connect with people that look at my profile.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're a CEO or a managing director, I send them a non-remotely salesy message saying, hey, couldn't help but notice you looked at my profile. There are two reasons you've done that. One, you're so drawn to my beauty that you couldn't help it. Or two, you may be having issues with your salespeople. Please tell me it's the first reason. And they read that and they chuckle and they go, no, it wasn't your good looks, although you are a nice looking guy. I just read a comment you made on a post and I was curious. So how you start an engagement isn't by, hey, I saw you looked at my profile. I work with a lot of men like you. Can we have a chat? That's like that's like trying to get a deer to come towards you and waving your arms and come and look at me, Mr. Deer. You got to gently ease your way into someone's presence. So I start off with something very simple like that. It's very effective because it makes people laugh. One of the greatest skills, good salesmen make people laugh.
Yeah,
The
true.
guy that gets the girl makes the girl laugh.
That's true.
Having the ability to use humor effectively is one of the salesperson's greatest assets. Unfortunately, so many people don't know how to use humor appropriately or effectively. Yeah.
That's true. How do you
So
learn humor?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I think you're either born with it or you're not, or you could learn it. You could watch a lot of comedy shows. You could watch a lot of and mimic them and start to imitate them because, as they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So you could do that. But you're going to have to want to do that. Most salespeople don't. So they make an inappropriate joke, or they can't tell a joke with a punchline, or they don't know when to use humor. That is a judgment call which comes with experience and exercise. Because there are certain people you can say something to that you couldn't say to someone else, and that's judgment, and that's a skill that is required. But if you know your audience, just like a good comedian, they know their audience, they know what they can get away with, they know where they can push. It's part of the game. So I always tell my clients, join Toastmasters, the speaking club. If you're struggling to communicate, physically go join Toastmasters and learn how to speak publicly. If you want to get good at talking to people on a one-to-one, get good at talking to them in a group. Yeah, you got to learn the skill. Like I say, most salespeople, I don't really want to be here anyway, so I'm not going to give up my Tuesday night to go to a speaking club. Yeah.
All right. So it starts with committing to actually mastery, right? To excellence.
Yeah, well, look, how many years does it take to qualify as a lawyer? 5. How many years
Hmm.
to qualify as an accountant? 4. How many to become a surgeon? 7. And then once you've qualified, you're at the bottom of your profession. You're a junior. What does it take to be called a sales professional? 3 days product knowledge training, a new suit, a CRM system, and you are one. Yeah?
The bar is low.
Wow. The bar is low. If you can put on a suit and not dribble during the interview, you're pretty much guaranteed to get hired.
And is AI making the job of selling easier or harder?
Oh, I love this AI. I get so sick of the phrase AI. It's everywhere now. It's so irritating. So, this is my prediction. I think AI will eliminate the shittiest of cold callers, without doubt. AI is going to be so good at mimicking people's suit. It's all right now, but it's going to get infinitely better to such a point where you may struggle to identify if it's an actual person or not, which means the barrier, finally, there'll actually be a level of entry. And it's going to be, do you sound better than our AI? Or at least equal? Because if you do not, you don't get a job. I think that's a good thing because during COVID, I found this fascinating. During COVID, I spoke with a lot of business owners, and most of them had the same thing to say. COVID, whilst as bad as it was, wasn't that bad for business because I got to lay off half my sales team, but the same amount of money still came in. And it's because most salespeople are ineffective. Most of them are glorified order takers. Yeah, they don't prospect. So AI, I do believe, will create a minimum standard for salespeople to be able to achieve. Because right now, the average salesperson you hire, they don't know what to do on the phone. They watch YouTube. They do my stuff. But no. So I think AI will do that. I think eventually it will probably take over most cold calling functions simply because there'll be a generational change. We're going to have a generation of people born now that are going to be so used to interacting with AI, they won't see it as anything weird. You know? I mean, I was at the airport the other day and they scanned my face. There was no need for the boarding pass. It just scanned my face. And I remember thinking when I was growing up in the 80s, face scanning, that's so futuristic. My daughter's grown up with only knowing face scanning. You know, so her world is going to be different. It's the same with AI. There's going to be so many AI phone calls to real humans are going to get used to it. And they'll interact with it, they'll engage it. Because, well, I've grown up with ChatGPT. I've grown up with Claude. I'm used to doing this. Yeah, so yes, it will affect the grunt level of prospecting, without doubt. Without doubt.
That's powerful. So, first choice, do we want to be losers or winners? And after that choice, now the work starts. Prospecting, yes. Pick up a number that makes it easy for you so that you never get under serious neediness. So have more conversations that you actually
need to be
close.
In front of more people than you can sell to. Simple fact. Yeah.
And you can do it in multiple ways. You can call people, you can DM, you can email. What else can people do to start conversations?
Multiple channels, right? Direct mail. You can still send people stuff in the post. Yeah. So I don't mind how you get in front of someone. I don't mind how you market yourself, but it's got to be effective and timely. The only reason I'm so big on telephone prospecting is if you're a salesperson, if you're scared to have real-time, real-world conversations with real people, then you're going to struggle when you actually get in front of people to sell. Prospecting, you think prospecting's hard. Try talk to a real human being when you spend your life hiding behind a keyboard. Yeah? So if you want to get good at sales, master the art of talking to people over the phone. Talking to someone you cannot see. You can only read them from how they sound or what they're saying. That is a good skill to develop. But you can't do that hiding behind an email or a letter or a DM message. You don't get that. So, yes, it will work. Don't get me wrong. But it's not making you a better salesperson.
What are some powerful questions to ask in the beginning of that conversation?
On a prospecting call or at a sales meeting?
Prospecting.
Two different things. Well, the first thing I do on a prospecting call is get permission to talk to someone. I use a pattern interrupt. So if I was phoning you out of the blue and you answered the phone and you said, yeah, Simon's speaking, I'd go, is that Simon? It's a question. Human beings are programmed to answer questions. So your default position without thinking would be, yes, speaking. Oh, look, Simon, you're going to hate me. This is actually a cold call. So do you want to hang up or let me have 30 seconds? You decide. Now, when you say this, it's fascinating. When you say this to senior decision makers, business owners, CEOs, MDs, most of the time, about 90% of the time, they say, you can have 30 seconds. 10% of the time, they won't. They'll say, no, I don't have time for this. No, I'm not interested. Some will say you can have 20 seconds. That's always fun. You can have 20. That's someone. But this is a power dynamic. But when you tell someone that is used to giving orders, when you give them an order, they have an instant rebellious nature. So if you tell them, do you want to hang up or let me have 30 seconds? No, depends. What's it about? That's why I do it. So that's the first question. In a sales meeting, depending on where you want to start, but my opening question after I've closed them would be to say, let's pretend we decide to work together. You're happy with the terms, the fees, everything. Let's fast forward 12 months. What has to change or what needs to be different for you to say hiring Benjamin was the best decision we made last year? That throws a lot. They go, oh, that's a good question. And then they give you an answer, but the answer's always wrong. And then I get to challenge it. And that's my job. My job in a sales meeting is to gather information and challenge the prospect. I'm not there to convince them to buy from me. I know what I do works. I'm here for you to convince me why I should let you buy my stuff. It's a very different mindset. Yeah, I'm not here to sell. I'm here to educate you on how to buy from me. And not everyone I meet can buy from me. They can't afford me. They're not right for me. They don't have the problems I can fix. I don't like them. It's a very different mindset. That's a professional's mindset, just like a lawyer. The lawyer doesn't, please, please, please let me defend you. I promise you I'll do a really good job and I'll do the hardest I can. Would you hire a lawyer that remotely spoke like that?
No.
You sound like a loser. So a good salesperson is never trying to sell. They're trying to figure out why you can't buy from me. If I eliminate those reasons and we're still there, there's a pretty high chance we're going to work together.
And how do you do that?
How? Well, that's a very big question. It's through the art of discovery. Your job is to get your prospect to discover they need you. And that sounds easy, but it's actually quite hard because your job is to listen and challenge your prospect and understand them. You've got to see their problem through their eyes and then get them to see it the same way. And that's hard because that means no features and benefits. I never talk about what I sell, ever, because it's irrelevant. What I sell is a mechanism to fix your problem. How I do it, though, at the end of the day is irrelevant. Ask somebody, how does your car work? Most people can't tell you how a car works, but yet they drive one every day. I don't care how it works. So long as it gets me to and from work, I'm very happy. So I don't need to talk about the car. What I need to figure out is, why do you need to get from A to B? What have you tried? Why did that not work? What happens if you can't get from A to B? Why are you talking to me? If you like my solution, can you afford it? Why would you buy it if you could afford it? Why don't you try this? So it's a whole process.
Where can people learn that process?
Ironically, it's what I teach. So they can learn it from me. They could go out and try and figure it out for themselves. They could go away and read any sales book out there and just do 1/10 of what they read. This is why I love salespeople. They read all these books. And when you ask them, so of these books, which one do you follow to the letter? None of them. So do you do anything out of any of these books? Not really, because I find a lot of the stuff kind of works, but doesn't work for me. So all of this is bullshit. Yeah. Salespeople never, ever, ever, ever try to get better. They just hope it'll get better. And they're addicted to the world's most powerful drug, and I call it hopium.
You're not like that. You're a truth seeker, right? You push through the BS. And what happens then? So they experience you, they go, oh, okay, this guy is real. Like, he doesn't fluff around. I want this guy to help me with sales. What happens then? What's the offer?
Well, then they have to go and talk to their mum and get permission to work with me.
That's the CFO?
Yeah, he's got to go talk to his mother and say, Mum, is it okay if I go against every rule that you taught me growing up? You see, Mum, you taught me it's rude to interrupt. You taught me never talk to strangers. You taught me that if I'm asked a question, I must answer. You told me not to make decisions quickly, but to sleep on it. Benjamin's going to tell me the exact opposite. I need your permission to do that, because if you don't give me permission, I'm not going to be able to do any of this training. This is the fundamental thing. Everything I teach goes against everything you were taught as a kid that you don't realize still dictates you to this day. We are fucked up creatures, human beings, and the programming we got from our parents is in there. So my job is to give you a new program. And that program will rub against your existing one. And your mum's programming is going to be more powerful than mine until you can finally suppress it.
That's why you are the most hated sales trainer in the UK. And I hope there is 1 or 2 countries more right now.
I hope so too, yes.
Okay, so, and they come back with, all right, I got the permission, I'm ready to
Mum said I'm
reprogram.
allowed to play with you. I said, good, then let's begin. And so, so we go through a training process depending on, I work with individuals, ongoing monthly basis. I work with corporates over 6 to 12 months, training teams and getting the management in the right place. It all depends on how screwed up you are. But one of the things you have to teach salespeople, and this is the thing they fear the most, is having control. Selling is about being in control. And most salespeople are not in control. They fear it. They think that the man with the gold makes the rules. They think the man with the money is in charge. They're always coming at it from a subservient position. Teaching someone to be assertive, have parity and equality with their prospect, that's tough. And so I'm not a sales trainer. I'm more of a therapist, to be brutally honest.
You help them
I spend more of
unlearn.
my time. Pardon?
You help them unlearn.
Unlearn. Yeah. And you can't delete your original programming. You can only pause it. Yeah. And the problem is it's always wanting to restart playing. So when you stop doing this, if you don't do it for a few months, you slip back into it. It's just like going to the gym. Your body wants to store fat. You can pause that program by doing exercise and eating right. But the moment you stop the regime, the original program kicks back in. And it's the same with what I teach. So it's very easy for people to start working with me. So I love this. It's great and have success. But as time progresses, well, I'll water this down. I won't quite do this. And then before you know it, they're back to where they were. You've got to be vigilant. It's not until you retire that you can stop being obsessive. And I'm obsessive, just like any good lawyer or good surgeon or good accountant. They constantly retrain, learn new things, and practice what they're doing so they get it right every time.
Where can people find this program?
Well, you can find me on UK's most hated sales trainer.com. If you look for UK's most hated sales trainer on Google, you will find it's impossible not to find me if you put in UK's most hated sales trainer. You'll find me. I've got a YouTube channel. I'm on LinkedIn. If you cannot not find me if you're looking for me. If you can't find me and you're in sales, then you should probably get out of sales because you really, really suck.
Benjamin, thank you so much for being here. You rock, you're a truth seeker, and you bring something to the world that's really, really relevant right now. I hope many people find you and your services. Keep rolling, man.
I appreciate it, Simon. Thanks for having me on.